Okay, we have Fast Fawn, a national master from the US, playing d4. Okay, let's see what we have here. Go for our Semi-Slav, see what type of action we can get. And he goes bishop g5. Let's see if we... Alright, we're going straight into it. Botvinnik. Okay, let's see what line we end up with here. Go here. Bishop b7. Here. He's going to push forward. We castle queenside. This is all standard theory at this stage. We push forward. He should come forward and then we push our queen up. That's the theory at least. Yep, we go up to b5. Now knight a5 is a pretty typical move in the Botvinnik. We are opening our rook up against the queen. And retake. He has opened up the A file for his rook. He does have activity. Black's activity in these Botvinnik lines often happens along the H file. Okay, we'll jump into D3. Got a nice active position here for the knight, hitting the bishop. If he allows us to capture, his structure would be completely ruined. One idea for white in this situation might be to push forward with b3 to challenge my structure. Now this pawn is available, so we might just pick it up here. We are covering this square quite comprehensively. Retake with the queen. Okay, pinning my knight. I think we might need to just start exchanging some pieces now. Okay, let's pile up against white's king. Okay, I think this is probably winning here. We have the queen covering this diagonal, which is a very common motif actually in the Botvinnik. Okay, good game. Okay, so let's just do a quick post-mortem on that game. So we go straight into the Botvinnik. So this move here, bishop g5, is the starting point of the Botvinnik variation of the Semi-Slav. White is sacrificing that pawn on c4, but in exchange he does get a lot of space in the center. We simply protect our extra pawn on c4, and white pushes forward with e5, looking to take advantage of this pin. And so you might think that this advance is just straight out winning the knight because it can't move. It's pinned against the queen, but the key is that we strike back against the bishop. So now if he takes our knight, we take his bishop. So that's the idea here. Drops back, g5, and this is the typical temporary sacrifice that white plays in the Botvinnik. Still taking advantage of this pin, the knight cannot be saved, so we simply develop pieces. g3, white's typical setup here involves a fianchetto on the king side and playing on the queen side, as that is where black's king will usually find itself located. So g3, we bring our queen out to b6, so this is all very standard theory at this stage. White has to take this knight because there is no queen anymore, so he recaptures. We play bishop b7, getting ready to castle queenside, bishop g3, and c5. So this is a key break that black must play in these Botvinnik positions. We have opened up our bishop. We would love to get this exchange, which would leave white with some light square weaknesses around his king, but of course white does not want to exchange the light square bishops at this stage, so he pushes forward. We castle and white castles as well. We advance b5, b4, hitting the knight, which might sound counterintuitive to some people. We've just castled our king on the queen side and we are pushing our pawns forward in front of our king, but there is some tried and tested ideas behind this. So white pushes forward with his knight, attacking our queen, and the most active square for the queen is on b5, as we have some interesting opportunities for the queen, usually to activate herself horizontally from this position. A3, white is looking to start chipping away at black's structure and to open up some lines for his pieces. Okay, so in this position for black, a lot of the theoretical moves are around moving this knight. So we have knight to b8 and knight to e5 as well, being some of the main theoretical moves here. And the reason for that is quite simple. There is an advanced pawn here on d5, and it's actually quite weak. If we can simply get our knight out of the way, say either to e5 or to b8, then that opens up our rook, and we have a lot of pressure, and that pawn will be lost. So we go knight e5, which is a great practical try in Blitz chess especially. So we see an exchange of pawns on the b file. White has accomplished something in opening up the file for his rook, which is quite active now. And so bishop f4 here is given a double question mark in game review and is labeled as a blunder. I think that is a bit on the harsh side, labeling it as a straight out blunder. It does allow black to immediately take on the pawn with bishop d5, which would result in a number of exchanges and equal material, with black having a very strong center. So if we just show what that line might look like, we can take, hitting the queen. Let's say the queen moves to e2. Knight is being pressured now, so we might jump into d3. And yeah, this is a very, very strong position for black. There's no question that black is better in this position, but I wouldn't call bishop f4 a straight out blunder. Probably just a strong inaccuracy. So he goes bishop f4, and I jump into knight d3, which is a glorious looking square for the knight. White looks to activate on g4, which is a common square that the white queen often finds itself on in the Botvinnik setup. And some of the ideas of this position for the queen is that we are eyeing the black king, which pins this pawn essentially. Although that pin isn't really a factor in this position, because this weak pawn here, which is only defended once, is covered by black 3 times. So the fact that this pawn is pinned means absolutely nothing in this situation. So we can simply take the pawn, and that pin is irrelevant. He exchanges light square bishop, and we retake with the queen. And so this is honestly like a dream situation for black in the Botvinnik, because we have exchanged the light square bishops. White has a number of light square weaknesses around his king, with the disappearance of the light square bishops, and my queen is targeting them. What we saw in this game is a very typical sacrifice in the Botvinnik actually. White activates his rook, pinning the knight. We offer an exchange of bishops. He declines, and now we just simply pile up onto the king side. But looking at the engine analysis, actually, there was a interesting opportunity here for black, which I did not see during the game. So bishop g3 apparently is possible. So obviously he can't recapture with the h-pawn, as we simply deliver checkmate. Queen g3 is obviously not a great move because we pin the queen against the king. So what we needed to see to spot that tactic was that if the f-pawn recaptures, that recapture actually loosens this bishop here on e3, and it is now loose and hanging. So we can take on h2, essentially trading 2 rooks for the queen, but the key point is this check here. As anywhere the king goes, we can simply pick up that loose bishop. And this goes back to that point that I was mentioning all the way in the opening. When white advanced knight a5, back here in our theoretical position, and we moved our queen up to b5. So I mentioned that one of the key ideas of queen b5, out of all the different squares that you can choose from in that position, is that we can potentially activate ourselves horizontally. And that is what eventually ended up happening. We came into d5, and with that line that we were just looking at with the various different sacrifices, it was the queen check horizontally, which was the final piece to that combination.